But by the mid-90s, you then have a series of natural disasters, floods, etc., that lead to serious famine.
But these tragic conditions do not deter Kim from extravagant spending on his vast military forces.
He starves his people at the expense of providing for his military. 30 to 50% of the North Korean gross domestic product goes to the military.
In 1998, North Korea launched a rocket over Japan.
But he's talking about 20 years ago. So it means 40-50% of GDP. It means currently more than those days.
It created a huge outcry, not only because it went over Japan, but because, unbeknownst to our analysts in advance, it turned out to be a 3-stage rocket. If that 3-stage rocket had been successful, which it was not, it fell into the sea, it very soon could have reached the continental United States.
The White House is stunned. The hope for a peaceful progression in relations has collapsed on both sides.
So it means 1998, before year 2000, American United States miscalculated North Korea's nuclear power development.
When North Korea made its nuclear freeze agreement with the U.S. in 1994, we got up front what we wanted. They stopped their nuclear program. It could have made 30 nuclear weapons a year in a very short time if it had not been stopped. So they felt they'd given up quite a lot. They got promises. After this agreement was concluded in 1994, the Republicans take over Congress. Clinton faces real opposition to this agreement he just concluded. You softy, you've just given away the store to North Korea. So Clinton just didn't carry out most of this agreement. And many people in the Clinton administration thought, well, North Korea will collapse anyway. We don't have to carry it out. In the meanwhile, the military men in North Korea are going to Kim Jong-il and saying, you sucker, you've been conned.
When Kim launches his long-range missile, Clinton is compelled to rethink U.S. policy towards North Korea. Following South Korea's lead of dialogue with the North, in October 2000, the President sends his Secretary of State, Madeleine Albright, to Pyongyang for direct talks with Kim Jong-il.
I went having been briefed on what kind of a weirdo he was from our own people. He was portrayed as reclusive-like, with many girlfriends and watching porno movies, and basically a very weird kind of person that you had no idea what he was going to be like. He was actually quite charming. While I knew all the terrible things that he had done, I could at least make the distinction that he wasn't crazy. He was very, very well prepared, responded without notes, was not only respectful, but also interested in what I had to say.
The talks with Secretary Albright lead to a remarkable breakthrough.
Kim Jong-il puts his missile program on the table. He offers to end all exports of ballistic missiles. He offers to freeze the production, deployment, and testing of all ballistic missiles with a range of 300 miles or more.
Okay, he lied.
This was extraordinary. It was indeed a moment of great hope. There was a possibility Kim Jong-il was finally going to enter the community of nations, perhaps hesitantly, but ultimately to really create the final peace and stability that might replace the armistice of 50 years that had been put in place at the end of the Korean War.
It was a hopeful set of cards that we left on the table. I think it was a big surprise to everybody when the Bush administration decided not to pick up that hand of cards.
The newly elected President Bush has grave concerns that Kim Jong-il cannot be trusted.
North Korea is a regime arming with missiles and weapons of mass destruction. States like these and their terrorist allies constitute an axis of evil
Bush's strong words are...
Okay, it means Bill Clinton and Bush and following Obama, 3 presidents are led by North Korea, Kim Jong-il. So Kim Jong-il very good skill to how to handle their country, including development nuclear power plant, nuclear bomb, but also how to save their country.
Are met by an increasingly defiant Kim Jong-il. North Korea's seeming determination to become a nuclear power will lead to an ever-escalating confrontation with the United States. Fearing that he too will be targeted by precision-guided missiles, like those used against Saddam Hussein, Kim Jong-il goes into hiding for 50 days, shortly before the U.S. invasion of Iraq. Kim's disappearance also coincides with the annual U.S.-South Korean joint military exercises. For more than 50 years, the U.S. military has maintained a commitment to protect the South at a cost of more than $2 billion per year. 37,000 American troops are still in place and ready for combat.
If I were North Koreans, I would worry too. We know today the Americans have a 5-stage attack plan on North Korea.
They are scared of us. They've been scared of us throughout the Cold War. And now, during the Bush period, they've become really scared again.
People say, are you willing to talk to North Korea? Of course we are. But what this nation...
So actually, for more than 10 years, 20 years, North Korea is so much scared for United States. But the United States did not recognize current North Korean situation.
won't do is be blackmailed.
This is very interesting, right? For more than 20 years, the United States, even if they have FBI and even if they have the intelligence organization, but they couldn't get accurate information about North Korea.
President Bush has stated that any direct talks prior to North Korea's halting of its nuclear program are blackmail, the rewarding of bad behavior.
If that remains the U.S. posture, I think we're headed for a train wreck. I think it will be very difficult to prevent North Korea from going ahead with a nuclear weapons program.
But many believe that Kim's true intention is to bargain away his nuclear program in exchange for normal relations with the West and a guarantee his regime will survive.
Deep down, the honest feeling on the part of top leadership, in my assessment, is that they like to have a situation where they don't need to pursue nuclear weapons. I'm absolutely sure if we provide security assurance, they will have incentive to do away with their nuclear programs.
In April 2003, U.S. and North Korean officials meet in China to try to resolve the nuclear issue. The meeting ends badly, cut short when North Korea announces that they now possess atomic weapons. Though still unverified, the assertion adds new urgency to the debate within the Bush administration on how to proceed. There are no easy options.
The administration has not yet figured out what they're going to do about North Korea. If we're going to try to talk North Korea out of nuclear weapons, we have to be able to say, if you satisfy us on the nuclear weapons issue, we will otherwise leave you alone. That might not work, but that has to be phase one. If that doesn't work, then we need to move on to other options, including the military option, which we shouldn't take off the table. Stakes are too high. This is too serious a matter.
At that time, American military need to invade North Korea to scratch them out. So they thought atomic bomb. American military, American government, so much slack over North Korea's atomic bomb. Actually, they haven't.
We have to be able to risk war.
Short of war, a naval blockade of all goods entering and leaving North Korea is being considered. But the risks are enormous. especially to South Korea, which remains extremely vulnerable. In May 2003, North Korean officials stated, "The South will sustain an unspeakable disaster if it turns to confrontation."
Right? This is 2003. It means 13 years ago. So we, at that time, the American government and the Korean government, they couldn't make judgment for the more precise current situation of North Korea.
Ironically, the new president of South Korea, No Moo-hyun, is less worried about threats from Kim Jong-il than the possibility that the Bush government's hawkish policies will trigger a military strike by North Korea. President No was elected on a platform of engagement and cooperation with the North.
No Moo-hyun is exactly the same as Moon Jae-in, current Korean president. Exactly the same person.
And eventual reunification. Kim Jong-il has stated that he too shares the goal of a reunified Korea. The question is, under what terms? A totalitarian socialist regime ruled by Kim? Those with ties to North Korea's leaders deny that that's Kim's intention.
The North Korean idea of reunification is not a socialist system. People say that Kim Jong-un is a socialist first. He's a national first. His first priority is survival of the Korean nation as one nation. That means the North and South Korea coming together under the umbrella of confederation. Political, economic system are kept intact.
But for all his promising assurances, Kim has proved to be difficult to trust. His violation of agreements in the past has led to profound doubts about his true ambitions, and not only by the Bush administration. Many South Koreans are equally skeptical. Their pain-filled memories of the last time North Korea attempted to reunify the nation are deeply felt.
I always say the Korean unification will not come until the Korean War generations all die. Because it was a fratricidal war, brothers killing brothers, families killing families. Reconciliation of these people is not easy. The Korean Peninsula will be reunified someday, long after I'm gone. I think the best way is the solution by the Almighty, that the South Korean people who remember the war, they should die before the reunification can come.
Okay, this is the last part of this video, Understanding North Korea. I wanted to explain that they told a lie to the United States for many decades, right? So American government believed North Korea as what they're saying, instead of actual their the power or the level of atomic bomb development. They misunderstood from Bill Clinton, 1994. So it means more than 20 years. So this is yes.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I don't believe how come the country like U.S. was so easygoing. Still, for North Korea, it's easy to betray U.S.
Yeah. This is now is the same thing might be happen. Not only North Korea, but any other countries for slight or waging war and any struggling among countries. Many people misunderstand what the situation of their counterpart countries. This is very important to judge in the past how big they North Korea is not so difficult. They try to make a nuclear bomb test or some ICBM, shooting ICBM test. They should know that, but they misunderstood. They feel so much scared, or so much feel so much, fears about North Korea's threat. Right? This is the actual physical difference. Now next is very much interesting. But this is 12 o'clock now. I'm going to take lunch, and as soon as going back, just a moment. We have better see. No, maybe this one is. This is a very interesting video, but this takes about 30 minutes or. So this is Yeonmin Park. This lady, she is 30 minutes. So I'm going to, okay. She said this sentence is actually in the video. She's talking about, I don't read it, but 30 minutes. So whenever I'm going back, maybe I'm going back within 30 minutes, I'm going to start this session. And then 30 minutes later, I'm going to start this or spend 30 minutes. This is a very interesting one, okay?
Yes.
Okay, so, see you later, okay? Very soon I'm coming back, okay? じゃあ、高橋始めようか。
はい。
The cold black night of March 31st, 2007, my mother and I scrambled down the steep, rocky bank of the frozen Yellow River, which divides North Korea and China. There were patrols above us and...
Oh, this video is talking about how to escape from North Korea to China, and she's moving to China to Mongolia and fly to South Korea. And she had several years turmoil traveling around those countries.
Below, and guards posted 100 yards on the either side of us, manned by soldiers, ready to shoot anyone attempting to cross the border. We had no idea what would come next. I was 13 years old, but we were desperate to get to China, where there might be a chance to survive. The young North Korean smuggler who was guiding us across the border insisted we had to go that night. He had paid some guards to look the other way. I followed him in the darkness, but I was so unsteady that I had to scoot down the bank on my bottom, sending small avalanches of rocks crashing ahead of me. Our guide made a phone call to someone on the other side, the Chinese side, and then whispered, "Run."
Hi, I'm Todd Cranen for Reason TV. I'm here with Yeonmi Park. She is the author of In Order to Live, A North Korean Girl's Journey to Freedom. Welcome to Reason TV. Hi.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me.
You grew up, at the time you grew up, the years, was a really historical moment in North Korean history. Just following the collapse of the Soviet Union, there was famine widespread, and I was wondering, can you talk a little bit about that? Can you talk a little bit about what life in general was like in North Korea when you were growing up?
Oh, my life was kind of roller coaster. When there was time my father in a party, so he could able to feed us properly, so I had 3 meals in a day, and there was a time where I didn't have much things to eat, but beyond that, the life in North Korea, the seeing dead bodies on the streets, and seeing hungry children on the streets, and that was very normal life for me, and I never thought that was weird or that was sad thing.
And your father had a sort of a mid-level job in the government, officially. That was his official job?
He had a kind of, official job for a very short amount of time, but he could not be there because of his poor 상봉분, which is social caste system, and he worked in the bottom and worked in the black market mostly.
What did he do in the black market to make ends meet?
In the beginning, he sold everything. He sold the cigarettes, so he bought the cigarette in the border area, and then bring it to the country, so he could make a profit out of it.
And he was caught and arrested for this. Yes. How was he caught, and what was his punishment? What happened to him?
We didn't know what his sentence was. We didn't know what his trial was. But in North Korea, the government just arrest them, torture them, and send them to prison. And the family member did not even get invited for the trial.
How long was he in prison?
He went sent to 1 year labor camp, and he went to labor camp for 10 years. So total 11 years of sentence, and he served 3 years of.
And was that your motivation for leaving North Korea? Was that when you said we gotta go, or when your family said?
Yeah, I think it was the kind of biggest motivation, because once my father became prisoner, I was also marked as a criminal in that society, because my father's crime is my crime, and therefore my blood tainted in that society.
But you didn't know what's on the outside, right? You don't know what's outside North Korea, so how do you know it's going to be better in another country?
When I was in North Korea, I saw outside videos, and then I watched Chinese movies and Chinese advertisement, and there I saw fat kids. People will look big, and they had lots of food, and they have advertisement. In North Korea, we don't have advertisement for the people. We don't have anything to sell except the propaganda. and also I live in the northern part of North Korea, so I could see the lights from Changbai, the China side, and I was always wondered what the lights, why we don't have lights in North Korea, but why China has lights. And I believe somehow if I go to China, then they might have enough food for me to eat.
It's interesting that advertising did it to you too, as well.
Yeah.
In the West, we kind of disregard advertising as having no value, right? No redeeming value. But to you actually say it was an important.
To me, was because I could not believe something talks about rather than the regime and the propaganda. And I remember when I was young, I watched the advertisement about the milk. And I didn't know milk was coming from cow. I never had milk. So I wondered what that taste would be like. That liquid thing is white, not pure like water, so, what that would be. And that was, I think to me that was freedom. They were creatively trying to sell their products. And they can say anything about it. But in North Korea, everything was propaganda, so that advertisement to me something was revolutionary thing.
And to you, freedom, the idea of freedom meant food.
I didn't know what freedom was. I didn't even know the word. I didn't know the concept. I never heard of the word freedom. To me was the happiest thing to me was having food. And when I was young, I never dreamed for being a president or prime minister. My dream was having a warm bucket of bread. And that's all I dreamed.
So, can you tell us just briefly about the crossing over mountains and rivers?
So, once my father got out from the leave, so he was very sick and he got out from the prison.
I think North Korea's level of life standard is the same as when she was living there. So, it means if current situation is going, that country cannot sustain for many years, or like 3 years. That's why I'm talking about that. The North Korea can sustain 6 months to 3 years. This is the reason why.
To get the treatment?
Yes.
Why is her English so educated? Her English.
She? Okay, she left North Korea and then lived in China for 2 years, concubine. Then she moved into Mongolia and fly to South Korea, supported by some other organization. And then after she lived in South Korea, she studied English. She can speak English fairly well. And she also, she talked why she didn't speak out this current, her experience before, because her English was so poor. So now she can speak English, so she speak out what she experienced.
And my family went really hungry. We ate frozen potatoes, grasshoppers, and we could not feed us in North Korea. So my sister left with her friend first, and my mother and I were trying to find her. But when we found the lady, that my sister left a note that find this lady, and I went found her, and then I told her that I want to go to China too. And somehow, for some reason, she said, I can help you with that. Haesan is a border area, but if we cannot just cross anywhere because the border guys watching us and they would shoot us. So we had to go to cross the mountain or like big hill, and then we went to cross the frozen river. And we bribed the border guards, but we didn't. The man who was helping us bribed the guards, but we cannot bribe every guard because 100 meters, guards, and the dog was like barking. So somebody who would shoot us from there, even these guards bribed it. So it was very scary. I thought I was gonna be shot.
And it's not like once you get into China, everything is great, right? Everything is actually really hard once you get into China. And once, I know you had a lot of hardships there, but once you get your bearings in China, then what do you do? Are groups typically helped by missionary groups or Christian groups? or do the people, that's what I hear sometimes, or do the people of China come to your help? What happens once you get there and you realize you have to eat, you have to live?
I didn't know I was coming, and I was 13 years old. And when I got there, the first thing I saw was my mother raped. And the guy who took us to China was human trafficker, and he tricked us. So when we arrived in China, the Korean ethnic Chinese man was waiting for us. And then he was trying to rape me, and my mother protected me from there. And then we found out that if we want to stay in China, we have to be sold, unless then we can go back to North Korea. But that means if I go back to North Korea, I will be imprisoned or dying from the starvation or disease, so I could not go back.
And so how do you survive? And first of all, what is your goal? Where are you trying to go at this point?
I didn't escape for freedom. I didn't escape for anything like that. I escaped for a bottle of rice. North Korea is so hard, and you don't think too much. You just want to survive. And we just crossed the river. And when we got there, they say, if you want to live in China, you gotta be sold. And you have to get married to a Chinese farmer. And if you don't want, you can go back. But I know I'm gonna die if I'm going back to North Korea. So my mother also being sold for a farmer, and her price was $65 at the beginning, and I was also sold for $26. And we were both separated from that moment.
But at some point you decided to cross to make it to Mongolia, to go to
Yeah,
Mongolia.
after 2 years of living in China, hiding, and during that time, the man who bought me, he offered me a deal that if I become his mistress, he would bring my mother and he would bring my father from North Korea. So I accepted the deal from him. So I became his mistress, and my father came to China, but he had untreated colon cancer, so he passed away. So I had to bury his ashes in the middle of the mountain. And then after 2 years, the man who bought me, for some reason, he let me go. So my mother and I was free. And then we met Chinese missionaries, the Christian missionaries in China. And they told us how we can go to South Korea.
And all this time, do you still hope you don't know where your sister is?
No, I didn't.
Do you still have hope that you may reunite with her, that you may find her?
Yeah, I was still looking for her, and I was still hoping where she would be.
You crossed through the Gobi Desert?
Yeah. So
tell us about that a little bit.
It was 2009, and somebody told me, if you go to South Korea, you will be free. You can wear jeans, which I'm wearing today. You can dye your hair, and you can watch movies without getting arrested. And I thought, wow, that is great. That's so cool. To me, that was freedom, not the freedom of expression, freedom of speech that we are talking about in this country. And then five people in our team, we walked and crossed the Gobi Desert in the freezing winter night. And we followed the compass. And then later we connect with compass, so we follow the stars north until freedom.
So for those of us who have never been to the Gobi Desert, which is almost all of us, just paint a little picture. What is the Gobi Desert like when you're not just going there as a tourist, and you're actually going there to survive?
So I heard it was desert. There's lots of sand is gonna be there. And the moment I was stood on the desert, nothing. Just nothing. Sand, just straight. And it's endless space. And I felt only the stars were with me. And I felt this even Earth, this universe abandoned us.
And where were you even headed in the Gobi Desert?
They told us if we had a compass, so if you go to north and west, between north and west, follow there. And if you go straight, and if you cross the 8 or something like wire fences, that will be Mongolian territory. Then you have to find the Mongolian soldiers or Mongolian people and tell them you want to go to South Korea, you are from North Korea. So we were crossing the wire fences and we were crawling and walking and running. But it was 2009 and it was end of February or beginning of March. So it was freezing cold.
And you did reach the border at one point, and you did
get arrested.
The guard. You got arrested essentially.
Yeah.
And so how do you deal with that?
Yeah, when I arrested, the guard was reaching gun like and pointing at me, put your hands up, put your hands up. And I was so thankful because I met somebody in the desert. And, thank you. I was speaking Chinese. Say. And they're like, no, you're gonna go to China. And we were like surprised because we thought if we go to Mongolia, they will save us. But they were saying they will send us back to China and then go to North Korea. So we had like begging them and we told them, if you send us back, we will kill ourselves. Because we were ready to kill ourselves. We brought the lasers, we brought poisons, and we were ready to kill ourselves if we were going to be sent back to North Korea. And they didn't send us back, and they put us in a kind of prison, kind of some camp for several months, and then we flew to South Korea.
This is your first taste of a wealthy country, and I'm wondering what is your first experience of that? What do you think of that?
Everything was shining. Everything was shining. And I went to the bathroom, and I couldn't believe because they had a toilet paper, and it had like flower print on it. And the smell was so good. So I thought, I don't want to use that for that purpose. It's so fancy. And I started a little bit with me. And I just could not believe it because people were wearing, the girls like, young girls wearing like a mini skirt. They're having like a small thing with their hands, which is cell phone. And everybody was so fancy.
Just like the advertisements that you
Yes.
Just like, what is it? When you saw it, it was like, this is like television that I remember?
Yeah. Or maybe fancier than that.
Really?
Because, yeah, I didn't think that was real what I saw in TV. Because in North Korea, everything on TV is lying. So I thought also maybe in the West, on TV, lots of things lying. Not the real life is not going to be like that. In the real life, people not going to have a notebook, people not going to have a car, Only in TV, people are having it, like North Korea. But here, reality was like a TV.
How were you able to reunite with your sister?
More than a year ago, she came to South Korea. And then she found us at the NSC, the National Intelligence Center.
What is that? What is the National Intelligence Center?
They investigate you if you are a spy or not. And then, because they have to check every your background, and I registered who's my sister, who's my father, where I did grow up, and my sister did the same thing, and they saw, oh, this matches, and do you have your mother name is this, your sister name is this, and they contacted us.
And what was that day like when you saw your sister again?
I had no idea there, and I got a phone call from my mother, and she was crying. And your sister's here, but there was lots of times people were tricked us and they asked us money for that. And I thought it was another thing like that. So I didn't trust her, what do you mean? My sister's here and she was this time's real. I was just screaming. I just could not believe that was really happening.
So a couple of years ago, I interviewed another famous North Korean defector by the name of Shin Dong-hyuk, who you know, who's a friend of yours.
Yes.
Well, I was born in a political prison camp in North Korea. I was expected to just do manual labor and to work. And I had no concept, I had no rights, I had no concept of what human rights were. I was destined to live and die in this prison camp.
The North Korean government came after him, and really hard. They tried to discredit everything he said. They tried to humiliate him and embarrass him nationally. And I'm wondering, are you prepared for that? You say that the North Korean government has come after you a little bit.
Oh, they came after me more than that.
Yeah. Tell me about that.
I have told my story many times, and I was not perfect, and I was hiding a secret. For the first time, I wrote down this whole story that I was trafficked. I was raped at the age of 13. And it was very hard for me as a girl who I have dream. I want to be a normal someday. I want to have family. I want to have baby. That's my dream. But I thought if I admit what had happened to me, I thought nobody was going to see me as a normal person. Especially in Asia tradition, the purity, virginity as a woman is everything. And to me, I thought if I reveal that, it's gonna be the end of the world. I will forever lose chance to be normal again. So I was hiding my secret highly. But North Korean government came after me and they discredited me that I didn't suffering in North Korea. And also they said my father died in North Korea, not in China. And they say my mother, I was a very ambitious girl. Because in North Korea, being ambitious is extremely bad thing. And they say you're an ambitious girl and your father was a bad person and your mom was immoral person.
As you can see, both Park and her mother have admitted that they have no idea what they're talking about the human rights situation in North Korea. This clearly proves that their scripts are written by the US and its followers.
But they didn't really come up with like a big thing, except my father died in North Korea. And my father's ashes were in China.
Oh, that video is the former band is supposed to be North Korea's propaganda. So they told a lie of her experience in the past.
My mother went to China a few months ago and she brought my father's ashes to South Korea. So basically our whole family, 4 of us in freedom now. So I'm very totally ready for it. And my story is like I'm talking about the executions and the government not letting people see us in the media and the starvation. It's not I'm only testifying it. There are hundreds of North Korean people say the same thing, and we can see that from the satellite. There is concentration camp, there is starvation, and the North Korean regime is they really oppress people. And that's what this regime against me, they say I'm the puppet of CIA, I'm the human propaganda puppet. And I think last week I spoke at the United Nations in Geneva. And the North Korean diplomats were there too. And I told my story in front of all over the world. And they also say I'm fake because the West trained me to be this way. So I don't know how much we should give credit to this evil regime. I don't know how much that is worth pay our attention to pay for that. And I admit that I was not perfect. And my English, as you can see, is my third language. It's not even my first language. So sometimes the journalists unintentionally misunderstand me. And they write down something, they write down different dates, and it's out of my control. Because I'm not the one who's writing the article. So I think I'm afraid that inevitably I might make the mistake in the future with my language barrier. But I know that the truth about North Korea, the oppression, and their tragedy, it cannot be silenced.
There's no doubt about that it cannot be silenced. You make a very good point. So the question is then why have, like Mr. Shin and a few others, they have embellished their stories. It's absolutely true that they suffered terribly, that, for example, Mr. Shin did grow up in a concentration camp, but it wasn't the one that he said it was, and some of the things in his life weren't as bad as he said they were. Why, if things are already that bad, and I believe they are, why embellish? Why do some defectors do that?
I don't know. To me, the reality is already bad. I cannot even describe what life is in North Korea. It's undescribable. It's unimaginable. There is no way I can even tell you how different the North Korea is. It's a different universe. It's a different planet. I cannot even tell you the reality, the truth. How can I come up with something different? And I don't know what other people's story, because I don't know, they might have reasons. Like for myself, I had a reason to hide my secret. I didn't want to admit I was raped when I was 13 years old. I don't know their reason, but I only know my reason why that had happened to me. And so Yeah, but it's very sad situation.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I
Yeah.
speculate that sometimes I think some people are understandably angry at North Korea and they want to make it even worse, to make it seem even worse than it is, if that's possible.
Yeah, because my case is like I have lots of witnesses. If you have read my book, we have all the recordings that my co-author who worked with me and who went to South Korea with me, and who met all the ladies who escaped together with me, and also my friend Youngja, who I met in South Korea, who I grew up with together, who made the paper dolls with me. And because of that, there's no way my story can be verified in every way. And we already have lots of recordings from that and the witnesses there.
I often learn that when North Korean defectors move to Seoul or South Korea, they're not actually treated well by South Koreans. And that's fascinating to me too, and I don't understand why that is.
I remember the very first day when I got out from the resettlement center. So there's a resettlement in South Korea, and they teach us what is ATM machine, what's bank, what's credit card, what the election is. And I remember they taught us how to charge money in the transportation card. And I thought money goes into that card, and then where's the money? Money disappeared. I thought it's a magic.
Yeah, I'm kind of like that way with my laundry machine.
Right.
It's the same kind of thing.
Yeah, so that's how I learned. And of course, I didn't know what was like A4 paper is. I don't know what copy machine is. I don't know what Americano is. So I didn't know even like compared to like 5 years baby, I knew like less than the babies.
Yeah.
But in South Korean society, they view us as like in a general sense like less than them. And they see us like we are less educated. And we don't have a good understanding of capitalism and democracy. And also we are from communism country where the government telling us what to do, and we don't really think for ourselves. And we don't work hard, therefore. So these kind of stereotypes against the people from communism background were there. And it was extremely hard for me because I wanted to start a new life. But before even I start, they were telling me you are a loser already. You are stupid, you are dumb, you are not gonna be succeed in this society. So that's why I was holding into the books, that the books only told me that I can do.
I would think that anyone who can survive in the North Korean black market would actually be a very good entrepreneur and have the kind of skills that would allow you to succeed in a capitalist world. Is that true?
That is debatable.
That's debatable.
Yes, because I did a black market business too when I was 11 years old. I saw the persimmons in the market, but I don't have any entrepreneur idea here.
Really? I see. I'm surprised to hear that because you're kind of a media personality and a media star. You're on television a lot in South Korea, or you have been. You certainly have a big social media presence. You're a good salesperson.
No, I am not. Yeah, so I think I'm sure in North Korea also people have to find their way to survive. And that is driving North Korea, this young generation evolving in this unique way. They finally started thinking for themselves in North Korea, which were not allowed in North Korea because the government is providing them food. So people now, they don't need the food from the government. And this kind of gives them some freedom, independence from the government. And people can think for themselves finally. And this trading gives them this opportunity to learn about the capitalism and trading. And so I'm very positive and very optimistic that these young people in North Korea, they will thrive and more, and they will bring the change in their country.
What do you think about Americans and people from the West visiting North Korea as tourists? This is happening more and more now. As
a North Korean defector, to me, and I was not elite when I was North Korean. I was now sitting in a bench, going to a restaurant, have a McDonald's or having a pizza, right? I was starving and eating the dragonflies, eating the plants, and that was my life. And I remember how my father tortured. And my father died without knowing even this kind of democracy exists in the world. He didn't even know this much food was available in the world. And if I had the things that Americans throw away, I would never escape from North Korea. That's how much we were desperate. And I was raped when I was 13 years because I was born in North Korea. I have nothing done wrong in the world. My crime was just being born in North Korea. And so many people going through this now. And to me personally, when the people pay money, go there, and they believe any kind of exchange is great. And this will help the people inside North Korea. And to me, it's like you are going to see the part that only governments want you to see. Right? It's kind of you are visiting Kim Jong-un's yard and see I saw North Korea. So some people, they misunderstand North Korea and they say, I saw amazing things, people happy there, they have lots of food. But some people, they learn the oppression and they see how much freedom is not there. They see the suffering from people and they raise more awareness once they go to North Korea. So I don't think this is black and white issue.
The name of the book is In Order to Live, A North Korean Girl's Journey to Freedom. I've been here talking with Yoonmi Park. Thanks for talking.
Thank you, I'm so honored.
My pleasure.
Okay, this is why I just written down the North Korea's current living standard, and I also told you North Korea's government cannot sustain not more than 3 years or 6 months to 3 years. So currently the ordinary people are starving, and also they have difficulty get food, and also they don't know what is freedom. So it doesn't sustain for so many years. So yes, Kim Jong-un, they need to consider for as soon as possible they try to establish nuclear power bomb and try to get recognized by the rest of the world. This North Korea will going to be independent country, not invaded by China or Russia. Then after that, he try to consider for their focus on the ordinary people or to leveling up their life and food. So this is Kim Jong-un's strategy. But this is very difficult. She considering the current balance of his time period. Maybe it takes more than 1 year. His government will not be sustained of the current level. It means coup d'etat or he supposed to be assassin. I think it's very, we don't know time span what North Korea will going to be. So this video is I got some insight of North Korea, the ordinary people level of life. Okay, this is the last video for the North Korea. So this is the end of North Korea. So I'm going to do next Saturday. We're going to get in the Republic of Korea. Okay. Any question? Good video, right? Is it?
Yeah.
To understand North Korea, right?
Right. Yeah. What's going on?
The question, you said invasion by China or Russia?
Yes. North Korea.
You think China will be invaded?
Of course, yes. They are looking for. They try to control North Korea and South Korea. That peninsula is originally China believed this is their own territory, and they try to kick American military out from peninsula. And first of all, North Korea is Kim Jong-un declared we are not following China, so this is China. They are not satisfied with North Korea. They try to govern this country and South Korea. So China wants to invade North Korea. So as soon as North Korea established a nuclear bomb, nobody can get in. So this is Kim Jong-un's objective, and he tried to consider for grandfather's intention. Okay, Ed is coming here. He just viewed this video for some last part of the session. So do you have any opinion? Ed?
Well, I don't know what the message of the video was.
This message is...
I'm a little bit, I always believed that China would just want to keep North Korea as it is, just not let it get bigger or stronger, but just try to keep it there.
No.
If they can play it.
No.
Because the only country that supports North Korea is China, right?
No. China don't want to support North Korea. China is always.
Well, who's supporting North Korea then? I think
No.
it's China. If you look at the trade numbers of North Korea, then 80% is from China.
No. This is diplomacy. They don't support North Korea. No. It's different. They want to invade North Korea. They don't support Kim Jong-un. Because Kim Jong will not willingly not to follow to China. So China hate him. Okay, Takahashi.
Yeah.
Okay, next week I try to get in the Republic of Korea. This is another interesting. Korea is more favor for China unwillingly, but no way. If they're going to get the position of independence country. And China always consider for the Republic of Korea as their followers. Okay? Their followings will be. So, okay? And Ed is coming here. Why don't you prepare the afternoon session? So, still not yet. The Korea and North Korea, South Korea, you can see this, right? Okay, I writing down what is the situation in South Korea. But I don't tell the true, my intention, Republic of Korea will be, in future, 1 decade later, 2 decades later, 100% China will occupy this country and kicking out United States Army. Okay, this is very interesting. Also, this country is a special culture they have. But North Korea is the same, but culture of Korea, the culture of Han. This is very interesting. Like my family owned Han. It's very troublesome culture. Okay. And also, 70% of GDP is by Samsung business. And actually, the Samsung authoritized or authoritarian democracy by Samsung. Democracy by authoritarian of Samsung. It's a very special country. But this country is for more than 40 years is occupied by military. So democracy just within 30 years. Okay. Moon Jae-in is a very similar person, Noteo, and he tried to open to North Korea to get more friendship and try to hire those people. And also he's thinking about compensation from Japanese government for comfort women or some employed people in Japan before World War II. But she's talking about some kind of crazy issue toward Japanese government. Also, he was against the SAD of missile of the United States, but now he unwillingly to accept American request. But still, he tried to give money to North Korea. Give money, 800 million money to North Korea. It's actually sort of crazy issues he has. And I don't write it down in the sentence, but this country is not stable anyway. And finally, China will focus on South Korea to be their country. We're going to be next 1 or 2 decades later. Okay? Because this country, they don't have their own country's spirit. Always when China, United States, but United States almost discard their independence, or they are getting to work together with the United States. So just last resort might be China. Okay? So this next week I'm going to get in this. This is another interesting. So ということですね、今週は。このビデオ面白かったでしょ？
はい。
うん、これなんだろう。あ、うん。だから、まあ、中国は、さっきの彼女の場合は逃げたのは、吉林省だから、吉林省っていうのは、朝鮮人が300万人いるんですよね。
うん。
だから、実際にはまあ、同じ国っていうか、北朝鮮と同じなんですよね。うん。で、あと、まあ、僕も北朝鮮行ったことあるけど、やっぱすごい貧しい国で。
行ったことある？
うん。食べるものなんかないんですよね。だから
Well, what she's saying is that it's much worse than.
Where?
She said it's much worse than what people see when they come. It's
oh
like,
yeah. This is a tourist. They're protected, and actually their local people very poor. And especially 20 years ago, they spent more than almost half of GDP for military. But actually, the recent now is more than that. So it means that this poor country is spending more than that, more than 50% of GDP for people, so they cannot survive. This is the kind of situation I told to Takahashi. So maybe I believe if the current situation will continue next half year or 3 months, not more than 3 years. So this country is bankrupted. So Kim Jong-un is very hurrying up to make nuclear bomb and ICBM. Then he tried to move into how to improve their country's life level standard. Otherwise, his position will going to be very risky under the current situation. This is my observation. So America understand. So what kind? Kim Jong-un will going to shoot another ICBM very close to Hawaii, but American never kind of military action against North Korea. The reason is very simple. Americans cannot get any benefit if they're going to start waging war. So they don't do that. Like, for example, Afghanistan, American got a lot of profit. And America selling a lot of arms to Saudi Arabia, they got money. So they can, American first is that means. So if that doesn't meet with American first, American will not take action. North Korea, nothing for them to get profit. So they don't take any action to North Korea. Even North Korea, if America invade North Korea, but they have no mineral, they have no industry, nothing. So they don't do that. But China is different. China want peninsula, Korean peninsula. This is originally they believe that Korean peninsula is their own country, their territory. So they try to occupy that territory, including Korea, South Korea. And I told you, Russia is different. Russia is just only the hate America. So Russia tried against any kind of issue Americans propose. So just against it. That's all. Nothing else. Especially at 1991, Israel collapsed. America just a lot of things against Russia for their development or for their improvement. So they still remember at that time. Okay? By the way, Ed, I have a question for you. This one. Why not? Why not can recording? I can do this. I can publish, just recording or YouTube, both way I can do this. They said, I'm doing some restriction. Why? Why they're saying this?
Fail to encode?
Yeah. Suddenly, from here, I could do this.
This is from Tuesday.
So, he said I'm protecting for some recording my system. What is this? But I could do this beforehand. Oh, by the
Are
way,
you on a computer on a school? So that's not the case. So why do they say that?
Okay, let me try to do
basically. So
by the way, I'm currently recording now. How are you going to stop it? How are you going to stop it? Currently, I'm recording now.
You're recording?
No.
Why don't you see?
30 minutes. 30 minutes. How are you going to do this?
Are you? Can you click on record?
Oh, yeah.